Welcome to the Fuel Podcast, where we explore the foundations under extraordinary lives.
The Fuel Podcast is sponsored by the Christopher Swartz team at First Choice Mortgage Advisors. NMLS ID 106583. If you're looking to purchase or refinance your mortgage, make the Christopher Swartz team at First Choice Mortgage your first choice.
And now, here is your host, Chris Swartz.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's Chris Swartz, your host of Fuel, and we are here this week with Cheryl Colleluori from Headstrong Foundation. How are you, Cheryl?
I'm well, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're super excited to have you here today. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now in a nutshell with the Headstrong Foundation?
Mm-hmm. The Headstrong Foundation is a nonprofit organization. We're now entering our 13th year. It's so hard to believe, but we're a little different, and we provide direct service to families affected by cancer. And our mission continues in memory of our founder, who was my son. So we've walked it, we've lived it, and we understand exactly what families are going through. And I think our empathetic approach and our personalized approach is what really sets us apart. Cancer didn't have a face until it was my son's face. Sure. So it all started with just him recognizing a lack of available resources to families. And we've really carved out quite a niche. I'm very, very proud of our efforts.
Yeah, we connected up a few years ago back at I think at a Rotary meeting, mm-hmm. and I was just blown away, by the story and your just drive and passion for what you're doing. And
it's funny because the podcast is called Fuel, and I always say that grief is my fuel. Mm-hmm. We're emotionally driven, and for me, it's almost selfish a little bit because I get to keep my son current and part of the everyday conversation. So it's really been tremendous healing for me personally to be able to do just that. I really found myself in a very dark place and wasn't sure, pardon my emotion, but how I was going to get through life without one of my children. And this allows me to heal, helping other people that are just like us, just like our family, and has gone through everything, is going through everything that we had already experienced. Emotional week this week. Nick's birthday is Saturday. Oh. So the whole week prior is, each day's hard, but there are certain days that are harder. And that's one of those days. Okay. Saturday. I'm already dreading it. I have to speak on Saturday, and I'm a little leery about it because I hope I can control my emotions. But then I say to myself, well, tears are part of my everyday, so I don't apologize for them anymore, and hopefully the audience will understand.
Sure, and I'm, of course they will.
Yeah,
and,
hopefully.
And I mean, it has to be a great honor to.
It's unbelievable.
To be able to, carry on, because from what I understand and recall from our conversation and your presentation, this was actually Nick's idea.
It was
right?
all his doing.
So
yeah, and he placed it in my hands the last day of his life. He said to me that he wanted other people to benefit from the life that he lived. So it's been a great privilege. We have raised almost $16 million.
Wow.
And we've been involved with almost 17,000 families nationwide, but the bulk of the work that we do is just right here in our backyard here in Delaware County and Philadelphia Metro, with our association with Philadelphia hospitals, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and then the hospital of the University of Penn.
Yeah.
And we have very, very strong connections there. And, we'll be in the hospitals in a couple weeks, distributing comfort kits and serving our Thanksgiving dinner. We serve 500 people on the day of Thanksgiving, allowing families to celebrate the holiday together.
Wow.
Our Nick's house has been a tremendous addition to the Delaware County landscape, and families traveling for end of life and specialized cancer care have a place to call home. And,
tell us just briefly a little bit about Nick's house, because it's a really unique, idea and concept, especially for the Delaware County area and where it's located. I know it wasn't easy to make to make that happen, because it's not traditionally something you'd find in a neighborhood.
No, and the house itself it's just magnificent. It's on the corner of Chester Road in Swarthmore and Harvard in Swarthmore, right on the outskirts of Swarthmore College. So it's not really a neighborhood as you would envision a neighborhood. The property is very, very large. The lot is huge, and there's not really any neighboring houses, which made it a little more attractive for me. And so we renovated. It took us about 18 months to demo and renovate, and we tried to keep in character with a 120-year-old gorgeous, magnificent home. And we added a few things to help our friends with mobility issues and, folks that need a wheelchair as cancer has affected them greatly. We wanted them to be able to enjoy the house. And so families that travel more than 50 miles into Philadelphia for specialized cancer care, whether it be the proton beam radiation, recovering from post-bone marrow transplant, or the new immunotherapies or clinical trials that are going on, and they're forced to leave their homes. Yep. They're forced to leave their support systems, their neighbors, their family, their jobs. Their wallets are pretty much emptied by the time they're at this stage, and they stay at Nick's house free of charge.
That's amazing.
So what's beautiful is the fact that you're walking in the door as a total stranger, and in 5 minutes they're your family. The folks, they really care about one another. The caregivers are pulling strength from one another. We have the ability for caregivers to continue to work if that's possible. And it's really a great feeling. It's a great place. We had a little 6-year-old little girl, and so she was at the hospital, and she said, the doctor's like, "So where do you live?" And she says, "Well, I'm at Nick's house." Nice. And she said, "Nick's house? What's Nick's house?" And she said, "It's one big happy house."
That's amazing.
It was
for somebody that's
going
through that
description. Yeah.
In their in their life. I mean, we were a family that was affected by childhood cancer. My little niece, she was diagnosed early on, a year, and they went through all the treatments and everything, and got bounced around, and I mean it was a roller coaster of hell.
Is she okay?
She did pass away, and
it shouldn't be.
I'll tell you, it was probably one of the most emotional times in my life seeing that little casket.
Well, you know what? The disease affects everyone. If someone's diagnosed in your family, it not only affects, just like you're sharing right now with your niece, but it affected my husband, my other children, my parents, his girl, his friends, our entire extended family of cousins and aunts and uncles. And, when you see somebody that, like in Nick's case, in the prime of his life and so physically fit, and, you question, like, how does this even happen?
Sure.
We honored two local families this past Saturday down at the University of Penn at one of our fall lacrosse events, our collegiate events. And, now they know they're newly diagnosed, and they're trying to digest this news. And, it just really impacts everyone. And the anxiety along with it's just tremendous. Nick will be gone 13 years, and in one breath, it's 13 seconds ago. And in another breath, it's a lifetime. And, for me, it just kind of, I guess, resonates with me with just how precious, time is, and how valuable family and friends are.
Especially at that stage. I mean, 19 years old, healthy, playing, at a, high level of sports. And it's just, until it happens, it's just not even something you can wrap your mind around.
It's nothing that I had ever imagined. I often tell people I don't know if you're a father but
2 little girls. So.
When, you're expecting and you think to yourself, what is my life going to be like? And how is it going to change? And am I going to have enough love? And this isn't a pair of jeans that I can take back in 2 weeks from now. This is forever. And one glance and you're done. You say to yourself, how did I ever live without this?
Right.
And so for me to have to live without this, I believe in my heart that Nick knew that I needed something. And so, gosh, I just feel blessed that I have the Headstrong Foundation. It's given me that, okay, this is now my purpose because, as a mom, I was supposed to kiss it and make it better. Right. And this was something that I couldn't fix. So if I can be a fix or a resource or a shoulder to other families, just sharing our experience, and it's been my greatest privilege.
Yeah, I mean, what you've done and, how you've used, the experience that you went through to really just make such a difference in so many lives. And, that's just that story that 6-year-old little girl. I mean, wow. That's a small,
pretty powerful.
That's a small thing, and into the, humanity of it.
Right.
Outside of raising millions of dollars, renovating, a beautiful house and getting all of that stuff done. It's just to have that little piece of somebody that says, I live at Nick's house. I mean, that I can, see it. And for those people listening, I mean, Cheryl's got a smile from ear to ear. I mean, so this is what we love to do here on Fuel, is to really see that, we all have experiences in our lives that, that maybe change the course of, where we thought we were going, or maybe we're just heading down the same road that we thought. But these things happen, and, it's really how we utilize them to make a difference in the world. And I mean, Cheryl, I just, going back to that first time I heard this story at Rotary, I'm just so amazed by what you're doing. And
thank you. And
that was 2 years ago, and we've already.
Well, sometimes I feel like there's a higher being that kind of intersects every once in a while, and just we come up with concepts and thoughts, and it's almost like how did we get here? Yeah, we have a roadmap, and yes, we work hard, but it's just been surreal to watch this. And my son Michael got emotional the other day and said, I grabbed him on last weekend was pretty special. We were called into the locker room at Hofstra. We had our first of our fall event series at Hofstra, which plays a very important role in the Headstrong Foundation, which is where Nicholas and Michael, played their college ball. And after our presentation, the coach asked for us to join him in the locker room. And so we had gone in. I had never been in a men's locker room before. And so the room was outlined in chairs, and the team had been surrounding the room. And they used that to be able to draw out issues that's on somebody's mind. Okay. And it's anything goes. There's no rules. You could talk about anything that's on your plate. And so the day before the tournament, one of the guys that had played with Nicholas and Michael is now part of the coaching staff. And they were going around the room talking about, really, really hard things that they had to overcome. And this coach stood up and said, Nick Colleluori. Wow. Now we're talking, this is almost 13 years later. And he said, the hardest thing I ever had to do was learn how to deal with the passing of Nick, especially with the type of teammate that he was, and his impact is still felt. And he said, the head coach had said, it was hard and it was raw and there was emotion and there were tears. And we wanted to share this moment with you. And so then he went down into the locker room. Coach Gorman went down into the locker room, or down to the equipment room, and we're talking about 13 years ago, and Nicholas's actual uniform was on. Wow. He found it was on the top of the pile, and he said to the coach, where has this been all these years? And they presented us with his uniform.
Oh, that's special.
And I was a mess. And so on Saturday we were at Penn, and there were 4 collegiate lacrosse teams. It was Penn, Albany, Hopkins, and Army, and we brought the uniform. And my son Michael spoke and said, what would you do if you knew that today was your last game? Wow. You look at this uniform and look at this number and what it represents and what it meant and what it means to have this opportunity to represent your school, to play this game that you love and give it all you've got every single game on and off the field. And it was pretty impactful.
Powerful. Yeah.
So he was emotional Saturday night, and he said, I just stood back and I looked at our impact, and I just kind of, again, it's surreal.
That's what I was going to say.
It's just it's been unbelievable. But
probably.
Emotion is the fuel. Emotion and grief is the fuel that drives us.
Yeah. And that's not something that if you were to, try to pick what your fuel would be, if you could do it.
Wasn't my choosing.
Yeah.
Wasn't what I envisioned.
Right. So, and you just never know, but there are, whatever it is that you need to make your fuel. I mean, you can really make such a difference. And
I wasn't sure that I could handle it. I wasn't sure that I could, I had a good job. I was good at what I did, and, it was a great escape.
Sure.
So when the time came to make the decision, to lead the organization as I promised, I just wasn't sure that I could handle it emotionally. The first month was tough. I think I cried 10 out of the 12 hours that I was in the office. But,
oh my goodness.
Each day the tears got a little less, and the motivation got stronger, and here we are today.
Yeah. And I mean, it had to be scary, right? Because you left the financial,
I left it all.
Corporate job.
I left everything: benefits, pension, stock options, salary.
Wow. I mean, that takes a lot.
Well, when you believe in something with your whole heart, there's no fear. When I make a decision about something, it's easy. Why? I've already done hard. I buried my child. So everything compares to that moment. It's not hard. Where I've already done hard.
Right.
So is failure in our vocabulary? No. Was it in Nick's vocabulary? No. So, the fact that the Headstrong Foundation was born in a hospital, and it was developed by a 19-year-old person affected by this disease and questioning why this, why that. Why isn't this available? How can we improve things? How can we improve the morale? How can we improve accommodations? How can we,
selfless, right?
Selfless.
Like going through that and thinking.
Drawing the logo, going into the OR on a napkin. Wow. 2:00 in the morning, he wakes me up and says, here's my idea for the Headstrong Foundation. And, he developed the short-term goals, long-term goals, the color palette, the logo, mission statement.
Like he just like you said, it was like being guided by something
crazy.
Else crazy. And
well,
how did the name come about?
So Nick was a very old soul, and no doubt in my mind, like he was very knowledgeable beyond our world. And I remember when he handed me the piece of paper, I said to him, where did you come from? I mean, how are you, he's polling other patients, and,
oh my goodness.
It was really a wonderful pastime for him. And this was really to be his future and is now his legacy. But the name he named it. His nickname was Head.
Okay.
From the time he was a little boy, and he despised it until he got into high school and college, and people didn't even know that his name was Nicholas.
Oh my goodness.
So he went by Head on everything. It's actually on his at the cemetery. It's on his stone. And he was known for his mental and physical toughness. You know, he 3-time captain at Ridley. He was known for his mental and physical toughness. He was an undersized athlete that just always excelled at anything he did. And he said, "Mom, headstrong, it fits."
Nice.
So the head is always capitalized, and that's intentional. You know, it really defines who we are, who he was, his determination, and you know, his attitude.
It's amazing to me that you could be going through that experience as an individual and not be thinking of yourself.
I know, I couldn't.
Like as I think about it, you know, you just, you know, I mean,
and
of course,
I would say that to him too. Like, you know, it's okay. This is an okay time for you to be thinking about yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
and that wasn't who he was. So, did he ever think that this disease would, you know, end his life? No, not even the last day of his life did he think that. He was a pleaser, so I think that, you know, he never wanted to disappoint, and certainly never disappointed his mother. That's for sure.
Oh, and
so my promise to him was that yes, I would make the biggest impact I could in his name, and that other people would definitely benefit from his life.
And so many people have.
Yes.
I mean, that's just, you know, it's just the perfect story because, you know, for Nick to be, you know, coming up with all that and putting that much into it and then kind of, you know, handing that to you. Yep. I mean, you had a decision to make, you know, can I really do this? Is this, you know, how do I do this? Is this really possible? And, you know, you took it and, you know, I mean, you ran with it.
Yeah, we did. Well, I didn't do it alone. There's a lot of people that believe wholeheartedly as well. You know, my 2 sons and, you know, our staff and our volunteers, and heck, my son Michael was our first volunteer, was our first employee. We worked for about 6 years, all full-time jobs and Headstrong full-time. And then it got to be, you know, the board was saying, look, somebody's got to drive this puppy. You know, this thing has taken on a life of its own. And
yeah, sure.
It kind of happened before our eyes. And so I couldn't keep making excuses like, can you meet me at 7:00 tonight? Because I have to work until 5:30.
Sure.
You know, and, but you know, it's when the timing was right. You know, I made the transition, and I haven't looked back, and the future's bright, and the disease is the statistics are staggering. That saddens me.
Yeah.
You know, I got a phone call this morning. A family that we've been involved with is he's not. I don't think he's going to make it through the day. So I'm offering up my prayers to this family today for strength. He's only 12 years old, and we've been involved for a couple years. We provided funding to help them pay their mortgage. We provided Christmas last year, went down there with packages under the tree for Santa. And, you know, it's really sad when we hear that the treatment doesn't work. We certainly know those words. And, you know, we rack our brains like, well, why did it work for this person but not for that person? Or, you know, why did Nick respond to treatment? And,
right.
You know, I'm sure the medical profession has to be scratching their heads too. You know, they're constantly trying new things and you know, but you know, there's still that large majority that
it's
just doesn't respond to treatment.
It's just so uncertain and unknown, and you know, I was, you know, close enough but not, you know, not where, you know, my sister and brother-in-law were, in that it was their child, but just seeing just, you know, the hope in anything, you know, a doctor over here.
You can never give up hope. And as you know,
like,
as a parent, you'll walk to the ends of the earth for your child. You'll uncover every rock.
Yeah.
And we did that.
Mm-hmm.
And still,
right.
You know, I bartered, I prayed, I begged, you know,
right.
And I don't think you ever recover from something like this. It's, you know, I apologize to my other children because I'm not the same mother that I was.
Right.
You know, I'm a lunatic. I was a lunatic prior to that, prior to the whole thing with Nick. But, you know, my children are everything to me.
Sure.
And now we're blessed with grandchildren. And, you know, that's, again, it's a double-edged sword because, you know, Nick didn't have the opportunity to be a father. And he would have been a tremendous father. And he you know, the children, the babies, they know him, but they know him third party. They know him through our stories, you know. And I wish that they would have had the opportunity to know somebody that was such a positive force.
Absolutely.
So they know him through us, but so there's always that, you know, there's always that double-edged sword.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, after an experience like that, I mean...
Nothing else compares.
Sure.
So, you know, we just...
No, Jean's giving us some keys there.
Some little hand signals.
But yeah, I mean, I you know, again, through my family experience, I mean, my sister and brother-in-law, you know, it was, you know, Aubrey was their only daughter, and you know, everyone in the family for, you know, a year or two after was, are they gonna have another one? Do they want to have another one? And you didn't, you know, want to push or talk.
It's a hard topic.
And yeah, I mean,
and what's right for me might not be right for somebody, you know, might not be right for somebody else. I mean, I've taken it to the extreme, I think. And we're just beginning. I mean, we've got huge plans for, you know, for the future, and, you know, Nick's house expansion. We just had our first meeting at Memorial Sloan Kettering, understanding their demographics. And, you know, so that's on the docket next. And, I thought Penn was big. Sloan is 15 floors inpatient cancer alone.
Oh.
It's massive. It's all they do is
Wow.
oncology. And I'm talking, it's world, you know, people are traveling the world from all over the world. It was very eye-opening. So, and you only know what you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And is that, I mean, that has to be hard because it's one thing to kind of go through an experience like that. You know, and then, you know, move on and try to, you know, pick up the pieces, but you're kind of still, you know, immersed in other people's, you know, struggles and pain. And
I mean, the Headstrong Foundation is to and through cancer. So, you know, just because the cancer journey has ended, whether someone is in remission or someone loses their battle, you know, we're still there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're still part of their lives. And, you know, every family has a story. Every family has something unique. And how I get through of that is, believe it or not, I'm inspired by their fight.
Really?
Their fight to live. It was my fight, was our fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the love that the families have for one another is the same love that we had for Nick. And so I get to witness that, and I get to see where, you know, families put their lives on hold.
Right.
And for that loved one. And that's exactly what we did. And so I'm inspired by that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
and that's how I've been able to get, you know,
so you draw
get through
from
it.
that.
I draw from that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So it's
definitely,
it's what works for me.
Sure. And you know, you're definitely making it work in a big way.
Yeah.
And well, you know, I want to thank you, you know, so much for sharing your story with us. We you know, definitely want to help out, and normally we do like a little rapid fire at the end here, which is a little, you know, fun exercise, and I don't think we gave you any prep for our rapid fire.
Uh-oh.
So so it's just three little fun questions to kind of wrap things up.
Okay.
And so this is just an off the cuff. You're stuck on an island.
I'm stuck on an island.
Stuck on an island. So this is a fun one. You can go, you can go anywhere with it.
Okay.
And you know, if you're able to take someone with you, you know, obviously, I'm sure your first person we know who that would be, would probably be Nick, I'm sure. But So if we take friends, family, we just assume that all those people they're able to get there somehow. So outside of our friends and family and loved ones, maybe somebody fun, somebody that you draw from strength from, or just we've had some really wild answers. So who would you take? One person.
So it's not somebody in my inner circle because they're already going to be there.
Yeah, they can pop by. But they're not going to take you home. So they can be in your inner circle. But we don't want to upset any family members that you might not have picked. So we're gonna assume that they'd all be there.
Oh my gosh. I mean, of course I would want Nick. There's just so many questions I have to ask him yet.
Well, I think we could make an exception for rapid fire today, and I think you can definitely. Nick is the appropriate person to take without a doubt. I mean, probably so many.
I just need
things.
to see that, that face and those hands, and see that smile and hear that voice. It's a longing that will never go away.
I can't even imagine, like you said, being a father.
It's terrible.
Well, again, at least you're, really doing the best you can.
I invite people to follow us on social, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
At Headstrong FND, just to see all the wonderful things that are continuing in Nick's memory. Visit our website, headstrong.org, just to keep current on events and families that we've helped and other stories. And we have a huge gala coming up, our 10th annual, on March 20th of 2020. It'll be here before you know it. Donations are always most welcome. We are 100% publicly supported. So,
sure.
Without that, we don't fulfill our mission of impacting families that are in dire need.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our listeners that are, listening to this, checking it out, make sure you donate if you can. Check out the foundation. And do you guys ever need, volunteers, like the Thanksgiving thing and, all of those things?
Thanksgiving fills so quickly, as you can imagine, because we distribute comfort kits the day before. So we visit every room at Penn. It's 132 rooms. And we distribute the comfort kits, and we make sure that they're aware of our Thanksgiving feast, and that they invite their, that the families are aware of it so they can come and be together. But the first people to volunteer and fill that are people that have lost their loved one that we served last year. Okay. So it's their way to kind of honor their loved one and pay it forward. So that's first. They're the first round of volunteers that we go to. We have a long waiting list for that, but volunteers, there's an application right through our website. We do our due diligence and making sure that they're, very valued volunteers and are able to handle themselves in the hospital around people that are sometimes very, very ill. And but even for our Nick's house, we staff with volunteers, volunteers at all of our events. I mean, that's how we operate.
Right. Yeah.
So that's an easy process, and
that's on the website.
It is right under about. I think it's right under About Us.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty easy or ways to get involved or something along those lines. The social is kind of where it's at. We post every single day, nice. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course LinkedIn.
Okay.
So
awesome. Well, it's a pleasure having you here today and hearing your story. It's just, it's so inspirational, and you should really, pat yourself on the back. I mean, really.
Well, it means a lot to be able to share the message, and, heck, maybe there's a listener that needs our assistance. By all means, reach out. And, if somebody would like more information, I'm available, again, right through our website under our contact information. And I personally answer all of my emails. And, I'm really happy to make new friends.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thank you again for making the time. I know you're busy, and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thanks.
So thanks for everybody for tuning in today and listening. If you got something out of this, make sure you give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Share this with your friends, family. And we will catch you on the next episode of Fuel. Have a good one.